The rain was cold but familiar, that kind of steady drizzle that seeps into your bones before you even notice. I adjusted my hoodie and stepped closer to the entrance of Brixton Flame, my restaurant. My name wasn't on the sign, but every nail, every tile, every table inside that may reach for the door. "Excuse me, sir." A young woman with a slick ponytail and a clipboard blocked the entrance without looking up. "We're closed to the public right now," I blinked Melissa. "Right." She finally looked up briefly, then her eyes slid over me like I was background noise. I said, "We're closed. It's me, Elijah." There was a pause. I waited for the recognition, the little gasp, the "oh my God, sorry" moment. But it didn't come. "Elijah, I'm the owner." Her brow furrowed. "No, you're not." My jaw tightened. I built this place, the kitchen layout mine, the bar my design." She shook her head, lips pressed into a polite but dismissive smile. "I don't think so. Maybe you're confusing us with somewhere else. I know the name of the wood we use for those chairs. You're standing by African mahogany. I spent 3 nights arguing with the contractor about those floors. You want me to list the wines on the second shelf behind the bar?" Her eyes narrowed. "You don't work here." "I don't need to work here. I own here." She straightened her posture and stepped in front of the door like I was a threat. "If you don't leave, I'll have to call security." I paused. "Call Darren. He's the floor manager tonight." "He's busy," she snapped. "Then Chef Raymond, I'm not bothering Chef over some random guy off the street." Something sharp twisted in my chest. "I am not some random guy." "You're wearing a hoodie. It's dripping. You really expect me to believe?" "This hoodie was a gift from the first staff we ever hired. It's got our old logo on the sleeve, see?" "That..." I raised my arm, the faded emblem barely visible. "She didn't look, Melissa," I said, trying to steady my voice. "Look at me, please, just look again." But she was already pulling out her phone. "Security, please come to the front entrance." I stared at her. Rain clung to my eyebrows, dripped from my chin. "Do you even know what I look like?" "No," she said flatly, "and I don't care." 2 large men appeared behind her. One had a name tag that read Carl, the other didn't bother with introductions. "What seems to be the issue?" "This man is trying to force his way in," Melissa said, folding her arms. I held up my hands. "I didn't force anything. I walked to the door." I introduced myself. She refused to verify who I am. "Carl gave me a once-over." "Do you have any ID?" I reached for my wallet, then paused. Why the hell should I need to prove who I was to enter the place I created? I shouldn't need ID to walk into my own restaurant. That's not how this works. Carl said, "Let's step outside." She didn't even ask someone to confirm. I said more to myself than to them. "One phone call. That's all it would have taken." "Sir," the second guard said, "let's not make a scene." A scene, that word echoed. I looked around. A few diners inside had turned their heads, faces pressed against the glass. No one came out. "You all enjoy your dinner," I muttered bitterly. Carl motioned again. I turned slowly, each footstep heavy with disbelief. My hoodie clung to my back, soaked through. "She said I didn't work here," I said quietly, not looking back. "I said I owned here." No response, just the squeak of the door closing behind me. I walked to the sidewalk. Let the rain pour, let it hide, the shame crawling across my skin. I stared at the glowing sign, Brixton Flame, my dream, my investment, my legacy. And I wasn't even allowed inside. Asterisk. I called Raymond 4 times straight to voicemail. Texted, "Hey, everything all right? Need to talk?" Nothing. I leaned against the kitchen counter, phone in hand, staring at the silent screen like it owed me something. Not a single message. Not even the courtesy of a lie. Later that night, I sent out a group text. "Mandatory staff meeting tonight, no excuses." At 8:07, they trickled in like sheep who knew the Volf was watching, avoiding eye contact, clumping into their usual cliques. Whispers swirled like smoke, thick, heavy, choking. I stayed silent, letting the discomfort settle deep. Raymond leaned against the wall, arms folded, no apology. No shame. Melissa strolled in last, like always, sipping on her damn iced coffee like this was just another Tuesday. She glanced around. "Didn't know we had a meeting." I didn't look at her. "Anyone want to explain why I couldn't enter my own restaurant this morning?" Silence. Shoes shuffled. Throats cleared. Raymond was the first to speak. "They thought you were someone else." My eyes locked onto his. "Is that what they told you, or what you told them to believe?" He blinked. No, don't clean it up now. Say it straight. He hesitated. The host said some guy in a hoodie was trying to get in through the back. That hoodie had my name stitched on the sleeve. My voice cut sharper than the knives in our kitchen. Melissa raised her eyebrows. You look like a delivery guy. I turned to her. And that makes me invisible? She shrugged. I'm just saying what it looked like. You mean what you chose to see? She rolled her eyes. Don't make it something it's not, Elijah. I stepped closer. You saw a black man in work clothes and assumed he didn't belong. That's not fair, she said, looking around for backup that never came. No, what's not fair is watching a staff I built pretend I'm a stranger at my own door. Raymond tried again. It was a mistake, I laughed once, cold. A mistake? Raymond, I've signed your paychecks for 3 years. You've seen me in an apron, a suit, sweats, and still, I'm only valid when I fit your image of a boss? His gaze dropped to the floor. The room felt smaller, heavier. I could feel the tension pressing against my ribs. Melissa muttered, You're blowing this out of proportion. Am I? Or are you uncomfortable being held accountable? Nobody answered. I looked around the room. Familiar faces. Every one of them had shaken my hand at some point, shared a laugh, clinked a glass. But now they looked like strangers waiting to clock out. I exhaled, slow, controlled. Tomorrow I'll be at the front door, not the back. Let's see who welcomes me then. And I walked out not because I was done talking, but because they'd already said everything in their silence, asterisk, I stepped into the break room, the smell of burnt coffee and reheated breakfast lingering. She's losing control? Maybe it's a bluff, a stunt? Their voices cut off the moment they saw me, just forks scraping plates, now paper napkins folding nervously. I stood there for a second, watching them scramble back into silence. I don't need power moves, I said, my voice sharp as steel. I am the power in this place. Melissa shifted in her seat but didn't look at me. Raymond stared at his eggs like they might save him. No one spoke. I walked past them, grabbed my coffee mug from the sink, and let the silence choke them like smoke later. The hallway echoed faint murmurs. My name floated through them like a ghost. She thinks she's running things. Only 'cause they need a black face right now, they'll drop her the minute it cools down. My stomach twisted, but I kept walking at lunch rush. Melissa cornered Raymond near the prep line. I caught their words like a splash of cold water. You backing her after that stunt? She hissed. You saw how she embarrassed all of us? Raymond rubbed the back of his neck. I mean, it wasn't that bad. She made you look weak, Ray. I don't want to get involved, she scoffed. Too late. I didn't need to confront them. I didn't need to raise my voice. Their fear already worked for me, but it burned when the kitchen finally calmed. I found Claire sitting on the back steps, peeling an orange like it held answers. I sat beside her. She didn't look up. They're scared of you now, she said finally. Good, but not in the way that matters. I turned to her. What do you mean? She sighed, eyes fixed on her hands. They talk like you're not really the owner, just a face. I swallowed hard. That's what they see. She looked at me then, quiet but firm. You should have fired them all yesterday. I'm not done yet, I whispered. We sat in silence for a beat, the hum of the fridge inside, the buzz of flies outside, and the sound of the city not caring about any of it. I stared at the ground, at the concrete chipped like old teeth. They looked right at me every day, and still only saw the role they thought I was playing. But my name's on every paycheck, my signature opens the supplier lines, my approval gets the health inspector to pass their shaky prep stations, and still, I'm not enough, not yet, but they're going to feel it, every single one. The clatter of pans, the hum of prep work, the sharp hiss of steam. My kitchen buzzed like always, but this morning, I added something new to the mix. Table 8 reserved, I said quietly, setting down a single menu, special guest. No one asked who. No one dared. I stepped into my office and waited 10 minutes later. A knock. She's here, Claire said from the door. I nodded. Seat her near the window. Claire gave a slight smile. You want the good light on her photos? No, I said. I want the truth to be well lit from behind the pass. I watched Melissa float toward the woman, her steps practiced, her voice bright. Welcome to Juniper and Ash. I'm Melissa, the assistant manager, she said, extending her hand. I didn't move. Not yet. The journalist, Emma Wright from City Eats Weekly. looked past her and smiled at me. "There he is," Melissa blinked. "Sorry, Elijah Carter," Emma said, waving me over. "The man we're here to talk about." I walked in, slow, clean white apron tied tight. Chef coat crisp. Emma extended her hand. "Mr. Carter, been hearing nothing but great things." "Pleasure's mine," I said. Eyes locked on Melissa, her face tried to keep up, but her mouth was a step behind. I didn't realize," she stammered. Emma tilted her head. "Oh, you thought," Raymond chuckled nervously from behind the coffee counter. "Probably just a mix-up. You know how first impressions can be." My chest tightened. The room had gone airless. "No, I don't know," I said. "What impression did I give?" Melissa shook her head slightly. "You had on a hoodie the first day." "We didn't, you didn't see me." My voice was even. "Cold? Because black in a hoodie looks like what to you?" Her mouth opened but didn't speak. "That I wasn't the owner." I asked. "Not the one who signed your offer letter, who trained you, who tasted your risotto 3 times before it hit the menu?" "I didn't mean—" "You did." I leaned forward. "You all did." I scanned the room. No one met my eyes. Emma quietly took notes, pretending not to watch. "I hired each of you," I said, voice steady. "Not because you were perfect, but because I believed you could build something bigger than yourselves." Raymond took a cautious step forward. "You know we respect you." "Respect?" My laugh was hollow. "You whisper behind closed doors. You question my authority in my own kitchen. You greet the press like you built this place." Claire stood in the back, arms crossed, watching. Melissa's voice dropped to a murmur. "We didn't mean harm. We were just unsure." "In your silence," I said, "in your glances. In your little doubts. You told me exactly what you meant." I turned to Emma. "Can we talk now?" Somewhere with fewer lies in the air, she nodded as I walked away. I didn't miss the way the kitchen stood frozen like they'd just seen me for the first time, but I'd been there all along. They just never looked hard enough. I walked into the boardroom with the flash drive in my pocket and fire in my chest. No one spoke when I entered. The air had weight, like it already knew what was coming. Melissa sat stiffly, hands clasped in her lap. Raymond lounged like nothing could touch him. Claire looked nervous. I plugged the drive into the screen at the front of the room. The monitor blinked. Then the audio file loaded. "I appreciate you all making time," I said. Quietly. My voice didn't shake. It burned. "Let's listen to what the walls heard when I was invisible to you." I clicked play. Melissa's voice crackled out first. "He's probably a food runner or something." Then Raymond's low chuckle followed. "You never know with them. Could be anything from dishwasher to owner." Right, he had laughed after that. The kind of laugh that comes with a smirk and a shrug. I hit pause. Silence. Claire let out a breath like she'd been holding it through fire. Melissa looked pale. Raymond stared at the table. I stared right at them. "That was taken out of context." Melissa's voice jumped too fast, too high. I turned to her slowly. "Explain the context." "I'm listening." Her mouth opened, closed. Her eyes darted to Raymond, then back to me. "It was just small talk, joking. We didn't mean anything by it." I nodded once. "You didn't mean anything by reducing me to a food runner in my own restaurant." Claire's eyes brimmed. She whispered, "I didn't know that happened." I ignored her for now. My eyes never left Melissa. "Or maybe," I said, quieter now, "you meant everything. You saw a black man in a hoodie and assumed servant. You heard my name, watched me work, sat in meetings with me, and still I vanished behind your bias." Raymond scoffed. "All right. Now hold on." "No," I cut him off cold. "You hold on. I gave you chances to speak up. I trusted you. You let this rot fester under my roof." His jaw flexed. I stepped closer to the table. My hand trembled, but I kept it flat against the wood. "I built this place with my mother's recipes and my own 2 hands. My name's on the sign, my blood's in the kitchen tile grout, and you thought you could talk about me like that when I wasn't in a suit." No one moved. I could feel my heart pounding in my throat. Years of being overlooked, talked over, dismissed. It had all built to this room. "You don't work here anymore," I said. Eyes locked on Melissa. She flinched like the words had slapped her. "You can't just fire me like that." "I can." "And I did." She turned to the others. "Claire, say something." "This isn't fair. He's emotional." Claire didn't say a word. Raymond looked up finally, face unreadable. "And you?" I said to him. You may not have called me a runner? But silence is an answer too. You laughed, you knew, and still, you let this poison grow. He didn't argue, didn't defend, just lowered his head like a man finally out of masks. I believed in you, I said, the weight of it cracking my voice, and you saw me as a placeholder, a symbol, not a man. Melissa stood suddenly. I'm not racist. I made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting someone's name, I said sharply, not reducing them to less than who they are, then defending it when caught. She stormed out. He followed. Slower, I stood there a moment longer, hands on the table, trying to breathe through the fire inside me. Claire finally whispered, Elijah. I'm sorry. I looked at her. I know you are. But sorry doesn't erase the silence. I unplugged the flash drive, pocketed it, turned toward the door. I don't care if I stand alone in this place. I will never let it become a home for people who can't see the man behind the melanin. And I walked out, not as a man who'd been belittled, but one who finally took it all back. Asterisk. I was staring at the framed quote on my wall. Power is not given. It is taken. The room was quiet. But my mind wasn't. My phone buzzed for the third time that morning. I didn't look. I already knew who it was. Then came the knock. It wasn't timid, but it wasn't confident either, that hesitant middle ground of someone who didn't know if they still belonged. I didn't say, come in. He opened the door. Anywhere. Raymond. He looked tired. Or maybe just embarrassed. Same suit. Different energy. Elijah, he started, stepping in slowly. I just wanted a few minutes. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed, clocks ticking. He sat across from me like we were equals. We weren't. I wasn't thinking straight. Man, that day, it was chaos, emotions, high, people confused. I wasn't myself. I raised an eyebrow. That's so. He nodded fast. Yes, you and I, we've worked together for years. I've always had your back. I let the silence hang, let him stew in it then. Calm but cold, I said. And still, in that moment, you saw me as disposable. His face twitched. No, that's not it. I just panicked. I didn't want to lose my position. I thought, if I stayed quiet, you thought silence would save you? I thought I could fix it later. I leaned forward. You had years to fix it, and you did nothing, not until you had something to lose. He opened his mouth, closed it again. You did this to yourself, I said. Not Melissa, not the cameras, you. He rubbed his hands together, eyes flicking toward the window like he couldn't stand to look at me. I'm sorry, I nodded. I believe you. His eyes lit up. Really? But I'm still done. His mouth dropped slightly. Wait. I thought maybe... No, I said quietly. You don't get to come back just because you regret being caught. He stood slowly, like the air got heavier. So that's it? That's it. He didn't slam the door, he just closed it. Like he'd aged 20 years in 5 minutes. I stared at the door for a long time. After an hour later, my inbox pinged my sincere apologies from Melissa Hargrove, a wall of text, almost poetic in its vagueness. I deeply regret any pain my words may have caused. My statements were never intended to reflect my values. Blah, blah, blah. I've grown. Since that moment, I realize now how much hurt I've perpetuated unconsciously. Like racism's a dream you wake up from. I deleted it later that afternoon. Claire dropped by. She didn't knock. She never had to. I heard Raymond. Came, she said softly. I nodded. He was crying. I didn't say anything. She sat down across from me, her voice lowered. Some of the staff, they're talking about coming back. I raised an eyebrow. Really? They say they've changed. That they see things differently now. I turned to the window, watching a bird land on the edge of the rooftop across from us. They changed, I said, because they lost something. She stayed quiet. I changed when I realized I never had them. I turned back to her. That's the difference. She leaned forward. Do you hate them? My voice softened. No, I don't hate them. I smiled faintly. I just don't need them anymore. Claire sat across from me in the empty dining room. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It was heavy, filled with things neither of us had the right words for. I want to come back, she said softly. If you'll let me, I studied. Her face, she wasn't wearing that practiced smile anymore, just honesty or maybe guilt. Why, I asked. My voice steady. She hesitated. Because I was wrong, because I followed instead of thinking, and because this place was always more than a job. I let that hang for a second, then I nodded. You can come back, but you start at the bottom, no shortcuts? She blinked, then nodded. Fair. The next few weeks, I hired slow and smart. I didn't look at resumes first. I looked at eyes at posture at the hunger people. Had I found young black chefs who'd been told, maybe later, one too many times, you're hiring us, one of them. Darryl asked after his trial. Yes, I replied, and not because you're black. Because you're good, and no one gave you a damn shot? He smiled so wide I thought he might cry. You won't regret it. I'd better not, I teased. Though deep down I was already proud. By the third Friday, the place had life again, not just sound, life. The kind of buzz that comes from people cooking with soul, from staff who didn't flinch when they made a joke, from laughter that didn't check for permission. First day couple approached me near the counter, eyeing the new faces behind the line. Where's Melissa? The woman asked. Gone, I replied. Calm and short, the man looked confused. Did something happen? I smiled. Yeah, I finally opened my eyes. We held our first community night that weekend, discounted meals. Open mic, no dress codes, the dining room filled up fast, every table packed with energy, no stiff conversations, no sideways glances, just people being. A middle-aged woman stood after her meal and walked up to me. She had kind eyes, but her question carried weight. Aren't you afraid to trust again? She asked. I paused, thought hard. I'm not trusting faces, I said. I'm trusting actions. She smiled and nodded, as if she understood more than she let on later. In the kitchen, we prepped for the second round. Claire was calling out orders like she never left, and Darryl flipped a pan with flair that made the others cheer. I leaned against the wall, watching them work. Laughter rang out near the fryers. Someone was doing impressions. Claire actually snorted. The tension that once lived in these walls, gone. What was left was real. One of the new cooks, a soft-spoken girl named Bree, walked up to me. She had flour on her apron and determination in her eyes. Thank you, she said, for seeing us. I swallowed hard. No one, I whispered, should fight this hard just to be visible. She didn't say anything else. She just nodded and went back to her station, but I stood there a little longer, letting the warmth sit in my chest. This wasn't the same place I'd started, and I wasn't the same man this time. I wasn't rebuilding for the sake of reputation. I was building something that looked like me, felt like home. I stood at the center of the dining room. My apron still tied, my palms slightly damp, not from nerves, no, not anymore, just from the weight of what I was about to say. Faces looked up at me, some familiar, others new, but all waiting. I won't take up much of your time, I began. Voice steady. This isn't about pain anymore. Silence. The kind that wraps around the bones and holds tight. This is about what comes after. Claire stood in the corner, arms crossed, eyes soft. I caught her gaze, then continued. I used to think respect was something you had to earn from people who already decided they wouldn't give it to you. I chased it, changed myself for it, smiled when I wanted to scream. Someone sniffled in the back, a tissue rustled. But I've learned something here. Respect isn't about changing for someone else. It's not about being quiet or polite enough to be tolerated. It's about standing tall even when they try to shrink you. I took a breath, hand gripping the edge of the table. Respect shouldn't be begged for. It shouldn't cost you your dignity. Eyes locked on mine, and for the first time, I didn't flinch under their gaze. This restaurant was built on pain, but it grew on perseverance, and tonight it stands on something stronger than survival. I lifted my glass. To those who see us, chairs creaked as people stood, glasses rose. Claire raised hers, lips trembling with something like pride. And to those still learning, the room burst with applause, raw, thunderous, alive. Someone shouted, "You better preach." Elijah, I laughed, short and real, the kind that comes from a place just beneath the scars. In the kitchen, I heard pots clatter and voices cheering. I didn't have to look. I knew my team was back there, laughing, celebrating, claiming a space that once denied them. Later, I wiped the last table, my reflection caught in the glass. I didn't look tired, I looked whole. Claire appeared beside me, slipping on her coat. You really went and did it, she said. Voice soft, I leaned against the counter. Did what turned a wound into a recipe. I smiled. It's called healing, she nodded slowly. Then stepped out the door. I followed a few minutes later. Locking up behind me, the rain had started again, but it didn't touch me. I stood on the sidewalk, arms loose at my sides, watching droplets hit the pavement. My coat was dry, my shoulders didn't sink, my breath didn't quicken. The storm came, but I didn't kneel. I stood tall, unshaken.